So, how do you switch formulas safely? Yeah, this is a big question that I hear, and it's a huge topic, but one we're going to try to minimize and talk about quickly today. Merry Christmas, everyone. Thanksgiving is over. We survived. I did not shower today, as you can see. I have some leftover eggnog that is so good. Bubba was so good during Thanksgiving yesterday. And we're having leftovers for dinner. Okay, so how do you switch formulas safely? I'm going to talk about the protocol that I like parents to use when they're switching from one formula to another. And this is in an ideal scenario. So what I'm not going to cover is how you choose the next formula that you're going to try. So normally if you're switching formula, something has happened, there's a rash, spit up, something has gone wrong, and now you're switching. How to choose the formula you switch to is a huge topic that I kind of go over extensively on my website. And I'm going to talk about Petey. That's okay. Petey's eating his dinner right here. So I'm going to talk about the logistics of how you actually go about introducing the new formula safely and monitor the transition. On my website, babyformulaexpert.com, I do sell a guidebook for $10 that has all these worksheets that I'm going to refer to today. I'm going to give you all the principles so that you don't have to spend the $10, but if you want all the work taken out for you and don't want to make any worksheets yourself, you can go on the website and buy it. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Switching Formula. And these are the principles. Please don't push that, honey. Thank you. These are the principles to keep in mind when you're switching formula. So one, you pick a new formula strategically, which I'm not going to talk about. So just say you've got your formula, your new formula. How do you go about giving this to your baby when they're exclusively eating something else? The principle is to do it slow and steady, and I'm going to tell you how. Things to keep in mind: if you are giving a probiotic or some kind of, you ate all your food. It's right here. You didn't eat all your food. Sorry. If you're giving a probiotic or some other kind of supplement, you want to keep that up. Don't change the dosage. It's actually kind of nice to be able to provide something consistent to the baby's intestines that'll actually help make a transition easier. Okay, we'll go tell Daddy then. So that is aside. So back to the principle of slow and steady. Now remember, this is an ideal case. So if you're switching for rash or spit up or something that's not life-threatening, I want you to do it slow and steady. Oh my gosh, if your baby's having bloody diarrhea or wheezing, like serious reactions to a formula, please switch cold turkey. Don't try to spread this out. But the normal case is not something so severe, and so we want to do it slow and steady. And so by that, I mean, how I recommend to do it is start off with, so you wake up day one, okay, we're starting a new formula. Bottle number 1, make it up. 1/4, only 1/4 volume of new formula and 3/4 of your old formula. Give it to baby, see how things go. Hopefully it's just enough new that it's not making a difference. And I want you to do that ratio for at least 2 bottles. So then after 2 bottles, if you're now towards the end of the day, or bottle number 3, if everything has gone well, you can do 1/2, 1/2. Hey, it's all right. But if you've got, excuse us, here. Why don't we trade? Trade kids, honey. That is a lot of whining, Petey. If you've got a cranky baby or a sensitive baby, you just know, you don't want to admit it. But if your baby seems to react to a lot of things, I want you to do 1/4 new formula all day. And then the next day, try next bottle, 1/2 and 1/2. And if anything happens, if you think the baby's not liking it, or your gut just says this is too much, drag it out longer. There's no set right and wrong way to do this, but that's the fastest I want you to do it, is 1/4 volume at first for at least 2 bottles, then 1/2 and 1/2, at least 2 bottles. And then the next day you can go 3/4 new formula, 1/4 old formula if everything's going well, for at least 2 bottles before you go a full bottle new formula. So that's mechanically how I want you to do it. Now I got one on the ground. These are, Bubba, no honey, you can't pull on that. This is the nerd part with all the tracking I want you to do. Wow, we are a mess today. There are 3 things I want you to track every day. Is this a lot of work? Yes. Is this a little obsessive and probably a little bit overcompulsive? Yes, but let's be honest, you're obsessing about your baby's formula anyway, so you might as well be scientific about it, and then you know you're doing it in a very strategic, appropriate way. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to get a piece of paper, for one piece of paper for every single day. On the piece of paper, I want you to like split it up into thirds and keep track of 3 things. The first third of the page, on every line, if you have that one, this is a space for writing new observations. So this is tracking how is your baby tolerating the new formula. So any type of reaction out of the ordinary, even just a weird feeling you have, you write it down, like, and the time that goes with it. This is, you are being a scientist, and this is your lab notebook for this experiment that is your baby in this new formula. So examples would be Ella spit up at 6 o'clock, which was 10 minutes after her bottle. You write it down. Then you just have it. You don't have to remember. She cried longer than normal before her nap. Write down everything that you notice. Maybe related to the formula, may not. But the reason that we write it down is if a pattern emerges, we have it and we didn't have to remember. This second third of the page is going to where you keep track of old symptoms. So you're switching formula for a reason, right? Maybe it's because it's cheaper, but let's say it's because it's a rash. So this is where you keep track of how the rash is progressing. If it's something visual, I want you to take a picture of it every single day. You got your smartphone, it's fine. Just snap a picture in the morning and then you have it. If it's something like, I don't know, colic, or something that you can't visually see, I want you to rate it 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. The numbers don't matter at all because it's relative to you. So let's just say it's colic and 5 is the worst in your head. So, you know, day 1 of your switch, it's probably pretty bad. So you mark it as a 5 and you just try to remember, like, 5 is awful. I wanted to pull my hair out and I was exhausted. Maybe the next day was pretty bad, but you didn't feel like killing a small animal, so it was a 4. So the point is, you write it down so you don't have to remember, and then we can check to see if patterns emerge. The bottom third of the page, you just write down notes about the routine. Babies are very sensitive to any kind of change. So formula is a change, but anything else. You're probably having anxiety over this formula change. Babies are sensitive to that. So things that you would write down would be nap schedule was off. Maybe daddy's traveling for work. Moved classrooms and daycare, like anything like that can really throw a baby off, and so it's important to record it so that you have a potential explanation for other kind of bizarre things that occur. So you got this piece of paper, it's split into 3 sections. The other thing you write down in the paper is how much formula you did that day of each, or if you have completely gotten onto your new formula. How long do you keep this little journal? A long time. So you keep it, you start it the first day, you start with even just a little bit of the new formula and you track all 3 of those things. I want you, if possible, please feed the new formula for at least 7 days after you're 100% on the new formula. So say it takes you 3 days to get to 100% new formula in the bottle. 7 more days on the new formula before you make a decision. The gold standard for any dietary challenge is 14 days. So if you can go 14 days before you make a decision, that's even better. But my experience just working with parents is like 2 weeks is like a whole lifespan in an infant, right? Especially if you have a horrible rash. So try to go at least 7 because it can take at least 7, but probably longer for proteins and things like that were in the old formula to fully flush out of the infant's body, if that's what was causing whatever you're switched for. So to recap, slow and steady transition to the new formula. Every single day, and then stay on the new formula for at least 7 days, ideally a full 2 weeks before you make a decision. Every single day, you got your piece of paper, it's split into 3 sections. On the top, you're tracking new observations and when they happened. So again, new observations might be like spit up, change in poop consistency or frequency, any kind of new rash, of course, anything bizarre at all, change in gas patterns, that kind of a thing, any baby behavior. The middle third of the page is old symptoms or whatever you are changing formula for in the first place, so colic or eczema, take a picture of it if you can, rate it on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 if you can't, and you're doing this every day. And on the bottom of the page, you write down anything that was out of the ordinary in your day that day or in your baby's day. Okay, and then when you decide, now you have this diary to go back. I mean, you probably won't have to go back and look. By the time you switch for 7 days, you might be like, okay, we love this new formula, or we hate this new formula. But if you're on the edge, this diary is going to be like gold, because often, like I said, 2 weeks is like a huge amount of time in the life of a baby. You often forget how bad things really were 2 weeks ago when you made the change. So you can go back and look at the pictures of the eczema, or look and be like, oh my God, I rated colic at 5 for 4 days in a row, the first 4 days, and now we've had a couple of 2 and 3 days. That's a huge change. The other thing is, a lot of parents give a new formula and then they're like, but he spit up right away on day 1 and it was everywhere, so he clearly did not tolerate it well. Well, maybe he did, but maybe if you had tried a couple more days, you would have realized this spit up subsided. Or perhaps that day, again, there was some big change in maybe grandma showed up for a week's day or something. Affect babies, especially your emotions, very strongly. So having the record is actually pretty important. Also, your doctor might want to see it. So I think it's really important to keep track of this kind of stuff. You are your baby's best advocate, and you are the scientist in this experiment here. And this is your lab notebook. So for those of you who are just joining, welcome, Merry Christmas. And this is my summary. Go to the website to get really broken down steps if you want to pay $10 to get the guidebook with all these worksheets. But you want to introduce the new formula very slow and steady, diluting it out in your old formula a little bit at a time over the course of minimum 2 days. 3 or more, I think, is best. You want to be tracking 3 categories of things for at least 10 days, meaning 3 to get onto the new formula and then a full week of being 100% on new formula. You're tracking any new observations at all and a little note about when they occurred relative to when you fed. You're tracking old symptoms with the hope of seeing them slowly diminish over time. And then you're also tracking anything out of the ordinary in baby's routine that's also going to have a huge component in explaining why new symptoms appear or old symptoms potentially flare up. This is also helpful if, for instance, hopefully this doesn't happen, but sometimes formula number 2 is a no-go and you have to go to formula number 3. It's nice to have the diary from formula number 2 to see how bad things were on formula number 1 or 2 as a comparison with number 3. It's quite a journey finding the best formula sometimes. That was a lot of information without any visuals. So if you are thinking about switching formula, please watch this again from the beginning. If you don't want to pay the $10 for the guidebook, I get it, but please keep notes on your baby's behalf. It's really helpful, more helpful than you may think. And I hope that is helpful for you. It'll take a little bit of the stress off, that you know you're doing this the right way, you know you're doing it in the most logical, scientific manner possible, and you're going to learn the most doing it this way. Happy holidays to everybody. Christmas is my favorite time of the year, and I'm so excited. I'm actually going to go start putting up Christmas decorations right now while I drink eggnog. If you guys have any questions, as always, you can leave it in the comments or on the website, and I'll get to it in a future Q&A. But this is a big question I have, and I actually clearly have this very detailed answer to how to do this in the most safe manner possible. Happy holidays to all of you and all of your babies out there, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.